Hey folks, James here. I wanted to welcome you to another episode of the McKinney Podcast. I'm recording this little preamble here because the episode you're about to listen to is the first part of what unintentionally became a two-part episode. Our guest for this week and next week's episode is Mr. Matt Hamilton. He is the brainchild behind the concepts of Local Yocal, the local Yocal butcher, as well as Loyo Burger and LY Outfitters. But aside from being a staple in the McKinney business community, Matt is also an accomplished rancher and cattle raiser, as well as an absolute nerd for all things beef. And we had no idea how much fun this conversation would be. It is wildly entertaining and ended up spilling well over the threshold for a single episode. So sit back, relax, and we will deliver the first part of this exhilarating conversation with Matt Hamilton. Thanks. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the McKinney Podcast, where we celebrate what makes us unique by nature. How's it going, Fred?
Man, I am jazzed, jacked, psyched up for this episode because you are one of the people when we were talking about actually launching the podcast, you were top of the list.
No
one of the top. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wasn't top of the list.
Wasn't top of the list, but you were up there at the top.
George Fuller was episode one.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. We knew that. But
Yep.
definitely in the first batch of people, when we sat down at Sweetwater Coffee over off of Custer, gosh, a year and a half ago now.
That's right.
We built out the 50 people that we absolutely had to interview in the first year. You were definitely on that list.
That's right.
So,
Well, thank you.
now, folks, we get the privilege of having Mr. Matt Hamilton here on the show, and we normally have like formal intro and everything, and this music sounds appropriate for the man that's sitting here because he's got a pearl snap shirt and a nice cowboy hat on.
I didn't wear the headphones. I got to.
Yeah, that's our guest intro music. Definitely has like a country rock kind of vibe to it. But we don't have the information for the show notes yet. We'll get Matt's bio and links and everything to his restaurants and whatever else is going on after this, including bio and headshots. So check out the show notes in the description if you're watching on YouTube. For those that don't know, maybe folks don't know who Matt Hamilton is or how impactful he is on some of the really great things that go on in the city of McKinney. So, Matt, why don't you catch us up, man? What are you up to now at this point in your career? What do you got going on professionally, family life? We'll go into background here in a second, but here in 2025, what's Matt Hamilton up to?
So, family first. I've got so my wife, Heather. We have 7 kids, ages 23 to 6.
Wow.
So 23, 21, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6.
All right, hang on here. We're going to pump the brakes right off the bat. Right off the
A little
bat.
faster on that?
Right off the bat. Yeah, because, it wasn't until actually, was it last week during the McKinney Community Awards Gala that people have actually seen his wife, because it's always been said that he has a wife and kids.
I get.
And so you said 7 kids. I'm like, I didn't see 7 kids at the table there.
No, well, they only give you 2 tickets. We had to have our own table. We wouldn't even fit. It'd be 9 of us.
That's right.
So my wife used to come out to a lot of things. Used to do a lot of the chefs, the farm to table dinners and type of stuff. But she, if you've been to one hotel ballroom meal, you've been to them all. So I do benefit auctions, and so I only do the local ones now, 6-8 a year. But I used to do 20, 25 a year. And if you've been to one gala, you've been to them all. And I'm working those things. So we're not wasting childcare to go to fill in the blank.
Yep.
We're not going to the Marriott. We're
Yep.
not spending childcare to go to the Marriott.
Well, obviously, y'all are going somewhere because you got 7 kids.
Well, let's just keep things here at the house. I get a lot of all the things people say. They go, "Oh, don't you have a TV?" Like, "Oh, bless your heart, you like TV that much? That's bless your heart." And y'all must watch some good shows. Do you know what causes that? And then I loved one of my favorite things. I like to really embarrass, especially elderly people. Go, "Do you know what causes that?" And then scientifically explain what causes that. That really backs them up. That's fun. Just have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so carry on.
So anyway, 7
5
kids. We homeschool. So we ranch, we raise cattle, and we raise a big percentage of the beef that comes through the butcher shop, and a decent percentage of the beef that goes to the restaurant. So on the business side, we have local Yocal Farm to Market, our butcher shop that we opened in 2010, and December 2010. That led to us having Steak 101, which is kind of a thing within itself, the 3-hour meat show, the meat comedy show. That led to dinners, that led to caterings, that led to a barbecue trailer on the side of Custer Road, that led to local Yocal Barbecue and Grill. So a barbecue by lunch, steakhouse by night, chef-driven restaurant. Like I say, we're the nicest place you can get traditional Texas barbecue, and one of the most casual places you can get a bone-in Wagyu ribeye, wood-fire grilled. We opened the back 2/3 of the building as the Augustus event space because, not everyone wants to get married at local Yocal. So, we wanted a little more upscale feel, paying tribute to one of the guys that built the building. And then the Augustus is our event space, concert venue, listening room. When you work too much, but you love live music and you can't go see live music, just bring live music to
There
work.
you go.
So we did. And staying right in the theme of food and beverage, we opened a retail clothing store in 22. And I have a lot of friends in that industry. Saw an opportunity in downtown with the space that I was offered kind of a really good introductory deal on. I view that store more as a customer acquisition tool. We have about 7,000 people a day walk around the square on a Friday today, about 12 to 14,000 on a Saturday. So if I can snag a few of those and get them to go to one of the other locations.
Half of them are photographers like me,
that's
dragging people around.
That's better than a billboard. So
Yep.
I, for what I pay in rent there, I cannot get a billboard anywhere on 75 from Anna to Allen. There's nowhere I can get a billboard for that. So that's kind of one way I view that. And we're a lifestyle brand. You choose to eat better. So we're asking you to choose to dress better, buy have absolutely as much American and Texas made products as we can.
What's the name of the retail store?
LY Outfitters. LY, because we confuse people with two local Yocal locations.
Yes.
So they shortened it, LY. And then, the Loyo Burger was on the menu at the restaurant. It's called the Loyo Burger, shortened it down. And we like to say it grew up, went off to college, moved out, got its own place. So Loyo Burger, and just like a college kid, it's got TVs and classic rock on. So our original restaurant, barbecue and grill, no TVs. I want you to come in, enjoy each other, have a conversation, don't stare at the TV. So we want to kind of have something to counter, offset that with Loyo Burger. Have a great burger. When you're in the beef business, you have a lot of ground beef, so it's good to have an outlet. So getting into the restaurants business, which really wasn't on my wife's plan A, because it's very time consuming and very much a different lifestyle of living being involved in the weekends. But I wholesaled meat out of the butcher shop from 2010 really heavily till 2016, 17 before we opened the restaurant. And I would deal with anywhere from 20 to 40 restaurants at one time in the Metroplex. So getting to see behind the scenes, like what people did well, what they didn't do well. The cheapest lessons in life are learned by other people, watching what other people did well and did wrong. So what I figured out is about 20 to 30% of the people in the food and beverage business, in the restaurant business, they love hospitality. They love that they have a call into that. It's a gifting. And 60% of people are there because they have cash money and they don't drug test. So I wanted to create a place for the 20% to work and not the 60% to work. And we really pride ourselves on having just an amazing chef, executive chef Adam West, great leader, fantastic chef. And you don't always get that in one person. You usually get a talented chef or a great guy. You don't always get both. So we're really, really fortunate to have him. We have such a great team of talented, competent people, and we're a big family. So that's the local Yocal family. So we ranch outside of that as well, which is if I just got to go do every day what I wanted to do, that's all I do. this other stuff would take care of itself, I'd just go ranch and come in and do steak 101s on Saturday. But I say that I work the restaurant.
I was about to say,
I'd say, come
I've
on.
seen you work in the restaurant. All right, man. Politely, I got to call a little bit of BS
Yeah, I
there.
know.
It
I've seen you up ladders. I've seen you turning wrenches and things.
Yeah,
So-
but you've also seen Matt work the room on a Friday
Oh,
night
absolutely.
and just go table to table. Hey, how's it going? Everything
right.
all right? Well, thanks for coming out tonight. And I worked in the restaurant business for 6 years back in college, and hospitality is a way of life. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's very obvious that I've never met your bride, but I've seen you around enough times to recognize that's just how you are. You're just a hospitable, friendly, congenial kind of guy. And you're very good at business, obviously, because you've built yourself a nice little empire here in Collin County, doing what you love, with ranching and doing all these different ventures. But at its heart, it seems like it's just a guy who enjoys a good time and wants to make sure everybody around him has a good time too.
Yeah, I definitely do. I want people to have a great experience. Like bad reviews kill me, and when we mess it up, if we get negative feedback, you had a bad experience. First of all, how to behave in a restaurant. When and where do you let the restaurant owner know you had a bad experience? At the table, because we can fix it right then. We want to fix it. We want to fix it.
Yep.
Not on social media 30 minutes later. But we have a way where people can feed back to us, and we call people. We've oftentimes called people, and they're still in the parking lot. We get this feedback like something was off. I've taken gift cards out to the parking lot, handed people. If we messed up, we want to make right. On the other side, the better consumer's kind of been trained to bad behavior gets rewarded. So it's a whole. I could do a whole show with you guys on the false claims. Like, we waited 30 minutes to get set. It took 20 minutes for the waiter to come wait on us. It took 45 minutes for the food. They never brought us the check. And I'm like, okay, so you've been here 2.5 hours. Well, we just reviewed the tape, and everything's digital, and you've been in the building an hour and 15 minutes. You were greeted, seated, waited on, served, and paid out. So apparently, Bermuda Triangle effect going on here.
Wow.
So we'll call them out when they're bad actors. But it kills me though to get those negatives, because we want everyone to be happy. We want them to have a great time, and we really do. And we do laugh at the false accusations, but we really do. We want people to enjoy themselves and be comfortable. I like one of I worked with Albernay, recently passed away, and sold him steaks for 12 years and was in his restaurant so much.
That's down in Dallas, right?
Yeah. They had two.
Yeah.
They did the Oakland, and then they opened up in North.
It's like
Beer Nate.
I didn't know how to pronounce that. I was
Great
calling it
guy,
Beer Nats.
fantastic guy, and but so you go there. There's a clientele. Like
Sure.
it's a very affluent clientele. But I did Pecan Lodge when they opened. I sold Pecan Lodge all their brisket for the first year and a half, and then we did Hutchins on the turnaround. So we've been involved in these other places. Now I feel like what we've done at Local Barbecue and Grill, we have the Albernay's level customer next to construction workers.
Yep.
So I've had legit billionaires sitting at a table asking the guy next to him, just a blue collar guy, hey, so man, that burger looks pretty good, So
Yep.
and they don't even want to know.
Yep.
I get a big kick out of that, seeing very opposite ends of the tax bracket
Love
come
it.
together over food.
Okay, so tell us about you. Like, obviously, as James already said, and I agree that you have a keen sense for hospitality as well as business. But like, where did Matt Hamilton make his earthly debut?
Yeah, so I was born in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. Tishomingo, that's up north of Durant. So Johnson County, Oklahoma. I grew up in a little small town of Coleman, Oklahoma, where my family ran an agribusiness. Well, I grew up. We farm and ranch. I grew up on a small farm and ranch, and we had mother cows, and I had a small pig finishing operation, and we row crop farm. But my family owned and operated a farm center. So hometown feed seed chemical fertilizer dealer. We were big in the peanut business, so peanuts were the main crop in southern Oklahoma. It was the most dollars per acre legally per acre there in southern Oklahoma, and so that was the foundation of our income was peanuts, and then we had a cotton gin, so involved in this commercial agriculture world. So that commercial agriculture background led me in high school and college working for large multinational, multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies who are also the chemical manufacturers, pesticide manufacturers. It's the same companies. They make all the stuff go on plants. So, entrepreneur from a young age. I was the kid that we sold raffle tickets, and I would beat the rest of the class. I kind of pride myself, me versus the other. I grew up pretty small. I graduated with 22 kids. Graduated 8th grade. There were 4 or 5 of us in 8th grade. Went to a little small elementary school. Didn't have air conditioning until 5th grade. We had window unit air conditioners in 5th grade. It was a big deal. And but it was great. We had home cooked food every day though, so it was awesome. I graduated high school, 22 kids, and very entrepreneurial. Made enough money my senior year. I netted my high school class. I personally netted us about $5,000 for our senior trip. So we took 20 kids to San Antonio for a week. So
wow,
pretty good time. But so entrepreneurial from a young age, sales oriented from a young age, doing well, selling chemicals and fertilizer for these big companies, doing internships, working with these guys, and kind of getting to see behind the scenes of big ag, how we made things for $2 a gallon and sold them for $50. We had products that we knew if we could get you to spray your fields with them once, you were going to be dependent on us forever. It's going to create a soil profile that you're going to need us. You're hooked. So they knew that. I mean, they would give you the product for free to try it. It worked, and then you had to have it. Was on the genetically modified crop launch team for glyphosate infused Roundup Ready soybeans in 96, May of 96. I think those came out. And, you're just not thinking about long-term health and wellness of yourself and the soil health of the community. So just chasing a living in southern Oklahoma. Farm Bill changed in 1996, went in effect in 1999. Our basis of agriculture in southern Oklahoma was around peanuts. It was our major income crop. Tens of thousands of acres of peanuts at $1,200 to $1,500 an acre went to zero in 2 years. So millions, tens of millions of dollars of income evaporated out of southern Oklahoma, just gone.
What was the reason for that?
So we had this wonderful program. Thank you for asking, James. We had this wonderful program from the 30s until 1999 that only peanuts grown in the United States could be eaten in the United States. We were self-taxed as growers and shellers. So every peanut grower paid $1 a ton in, and every peanut sheller paid $2 a ton in. We were self-inspected. We had great food safety controls. We were ahead of the curve on what chemicals we didn't allow to be used in peanuts, even though they're very chemical intensive compared to other countries, South America. We were banning products that were carcinogenic or not good for people. Mm-hmm. So and we had this nice level. So peanuts were $670 a ton. You could make a living growing peanuts. But you could grow peanuts in Mexico for $150, $180 a ton. Well, we got NAFTA pressure. We got formula. I mean, we can't have American farmers making a living. That's just ridiculous. So that went away. And so this from the 1930s until 1996, we had this standard of peanuts grown in the United States could be eaten in the United States, and they had a base price of $670 a ton. In 2000, that went to $180 a ton. And I asked people, now, do y'all remember when peanut butter got really cheap and candy bars got really cheap and roasted? You don't. No. Oh, man. I mean, their input costs went down 70%. I mean, consumers were just paying too much for peanut butter. You needed relief. Wow. They got their input cost lowered 70%.
So the profit margin of these food manufacturers.
You never saw it.
No.
You never saw a dollar.
But Fred, can I
Google the name Mars?
Well, like down in Waco.
Mars. Is it Mars bars?
Yeah, down in Waco.
Mars, yeah.
Billionaires.
Yeah. Do you mind if I take a complete
jump in. Sideways this thing.
You know this better than just about anybody else that we could get that's not from the Department of Commerce or state or whatever. What's your take on all these tariff talks? Because
let me get me to Texas, and then what I'm doing. Let me just put a bow on that story if you don't
we'll,
mind.
We'll circle back to tariffs.
So
right now
tariffs.
that's a
Give me
huge
30
thing.
seconds.
Yeah,
and we'll come back to that. So that's why I moved to Southern. So the point is that's why I moved to Texas.
And you stopped being a
I had
peanut
to come
farmer.
down here. Moving down here, I'd worked for a John Deere dealer for a little while. The guy that owned that dealership, he hadn't even moved down here to start a compost-based erosion control company. So I'm taking my agricultural background in a commercial environment, and I'm working with these compost people, and they're granola. They're crunchy. All right. And I'm putting together real soil health, and we just did this amazing work with compost. I mean, we would take diesel spill areas and put compost on the ground, and now the diesel's gone in months. We would eat we did all this amazing work with compost. So that's what kind of got me started into a more holistic mindset. Then I met my wife. Now, you notice there's an age gap in those kids. So there's Heather 1.0 from Southern Oklahoma, moved to Texas, took a Heather break for 3 years and married Heather 2.0. And so I married two Heathers, not at the same time.
Thank you for clarifying that.
3-year gap.
I was wondering where the 1.0, 2.0 difference
Oklahoma,
was.
not
different
humans, people.
different humans.
So she's an Aggie. She's Texas, got a master's in A&M, and she's very much health and wellness, fitness, holistic. Crunchy mom before crunchy moms were cool. And that really is what set the foundation for getting us into holistic, all natural beef. Why we have the foundation of our business we have today.
Yeah.
So that's what sets the stage. So tariffs and agriculture and import exports. So NAFTA was not good for the American farmer. So what we saw is we allowed those peanuts to come in from Mexico at $108 a ton. They were raising them with human waste for fertilizer, and they were using a chemical that we banned in 1982. Now, I don't know what you're aware of environmental movements or health in the 80s. If a chemical was bad enough to get banned in the United States in 82, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
They're still using that chemical in Mexico today. So what NAFTA did, it's like we're all playing baseball. We just have different rules. We get 3 strikes, they get 6 strikes. It's a different rules. So we saw that wave in NAFTA. And then as it then got rechanged to USMCA. So under USMCA, we have some more things that are kind of detrimental going on for our agriculture. 3 administrations ago, we had an issue with China where we decided it would be a good idea to let the Chinese take American chicken, take it to China, turn it into chicken food, chicken tenders, cooked, ready to eat chicken, bring it back. And we said, hey, you guys do that for 3 years and do a good job. We're going to let you take live chickens to China and process them and bring them back. Well, now a commercial chicken only lives to be 6 weeks old. It's a 2-week boat ride to China. What are you going to do with these chickens? They were never going to go to China. How far out is it that you go off the coast of America before you're not in America?
10 miles.
12 miles.
Is it 12?
12 miles. 12 miles international water. They were going to process these chickens in international water under maritime law. No USDA oversight, no FDA oversight. Dump the waste in the water where they could feed it to fish or farm fish and bring the chicken back. Well, the guy now, he was in before, and his Secretary of Agriculture was a chicken guy, and he got that shut down. So as much as I don't like big chicken, they got that shut down. 2016, my brother and I go to China. We're exporting pecans and pecan oil to China, trying to go to China to sell pecans and pecan oil. We make pecan oil in Oklahoma to China. The Chinese, they eat a lot of nuts for snacks. When you're in China, you'll go down the street and there'll be vending machines like 30 or 40 in a row with all these different types of nuts in them. And they'll walk by, they'll just get a little bit of this and that, and they just walk down the street and eat nuts. I mean, they're way healthier than us in most regards. So we go over there and we get taxed at 27.5%. Take our pecans to China. 27.5%. And they're like, don't lie about it, because if you tell them they're worth $10 a pound instead of $25 a pound, they'll just take them. They'll just give you $10 a pound. And we had to prove we had to prove and we had to pay them 27.5%. So we thought, well, what would it be if we brought pecans from China to the United States? It was like 0.3%, right? Mm-hmm. So at that time, our beef trying to export beef to China, 27.5% tax on beef going to China. Australia to China was 12%. Current guy, previous time, he got us on an equal footing with Australia. Got our 27.5% lowered to 12. For the last 8 or 10 years, China's been a huge growth market for premium beef, not the cheap stuff, premium beef from America going to China because we got on an equal tariff field. I'm very much of a fan of, I'm not going to set the tariffs. You set the tariffs. Whatever's good for you is good for me. You make it whatever you want it to be. 5%, we're 5%. 12%, we're 12%. Whatever. Two-way street. Of course, then you get trade imbalance where, they're buying things from us that we don't buy from them. But I'm not a fan of when it's 20, 30, 45% one way, and then there's a decimal point, and then the tariff
Right, yes.
the other way. The deal with Canada is a little crazy. I'm really not sure. I don't know that I can answer a lot of things at high level agriculture. I am pretty connected with a lot of folks at high level in agriculture and in the administration. I don't really know what we're trying to get out of Canada right now. So
Bacon
we
and syrup.
are leaning on them pretty hard. I will tell you that we're not very dependent on Canada.
Yeah.
Agriculturally.
Yep.
Canada is extremely dependent on us. They raise 4 times more cattle than they eat. They raise 8 to 10 times more grain than they consume. We are the they're right.
We're
But
the
then there's some
largest
nuances
consumer
that
of
we're the
Canadian
largest
goods.
consumer of Canada. Canada's just Texas. People, economy. Well, their economy's about 60-70% of Texas' economy. If Texas was a state, we'd be significantly bigger than Canada. Economy, our populations are about the same. They have more miles, we have more money.
It's a really interesting time for Canada with all of these geopolitical conversations happening internally in America while Trudeau is terming out, he's stepping out of office, and they're about to have probably the most important election in the last 100 years
Yeah.
for Canada. Dealing with the Trump administration at this time in their life, like thinking if I were a Canadian citizen, oh man, what an interesting, dynamic time for Canada to have to play ball with an evolving set of rules with America, a country that you have to get along well with because your economic lives depend on it.
Yeah, and so the best I can get from the the people I talk to is we really are trying to get this fentanyl under control. And you're like, well, but so what happened? They did a really good job of getting the southern border under control, an extremely good job recently. So we remember that they leapfrogged. They just started. It's like, well, it's so much easier to get in from Canada. So what we're trying to do is get this fentanyl under control and even immigration under control. It's easier to put people on a boat, bring them across the Great Lakes, sneak them in, and bring this fentanyl in. So they're trying to get ahead of that because you get the front door closed, you can't leave the back door open.
Yeah.
So that's kind of seems to be the deal. It's hard to wade through. I know there's a lot of agendas. There are intelligent people on both sides
Sure.
that are working on things that we don't know about. Because you'd be surprised they don't put it all on the 4 news stations.
Well, it's so easy for us in Texas to have southern border bias. And you look at a map, folks, the northern border is more than twice as long as the southern border.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit more than 1,500 miles of southern border with another, unless you're talking about body of water, Gulf of America / Gulf of Mexico, whichever you want to call it. But the border with Canada is more than 3,000 miles from east to west.
Yeah.
If I'm a bad person, I'm probably bringing stuff in via Canada.
Oh, how can you get? Well, there was a pandemic a few years ago. You guys may have heard about it. It's on all the news. And they locked down the border. You couldn't go back and forth. And I happen to know a guy who's Canadian, who's a musician that was here in the States. He's here in Texas, and he wasn't vaxxed, so he couldn't go home. Well, he bought a ranch up there, and he wanted to go see it. So he just goes to Montana. He just rides across. He just goes and rides across. I mean, it's like riding from one side of a ranch to another. And his dad picks him up on a dirt road, spends 2 weeks in Canada, then he rides back home. I mean, it was as easy as just, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering, like, it's there's not a fence.
It's not like there's a line in the dirt that says Canada and USA on the other side.
That's right.
I know people who own ranches in North Dakota, and they have to be very careful because the ranch goes into Canada, and they pheasant hunt, and you can't cross into Canada pheasant. You can't act 50 feet. They will come get you. Like they have to be very careful not crossing Canada because there's no line. They've actually put up posts so they know not to go into Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wide open. So it is a concern. Agriculturally, things are pretty good in the United States right now. They're the best it's ever been in my life, of my mature life. We had a wonderful time in agriculture in the late 70s, early 80s. So one of the things as a 16-year-old, I worked for a rancher, and he always said, 1981, I took a 16-foot bumper pull trailer full of calves to Durant sale barn, sold them on Thursday, cashed a check on Friday. On Saturday, I took that check for one trailer load of calves and bought a brand new pickup and a brand new trailer. I always thought, he's full of crap. So I looked that up, and I go back and look at what a pickup cost him. He bought a brand new Chevrolet pickup for $3,500, and he bought that brand new bumper pull trailer for $500. Well, today I have a 32-foot long, 8-foot wide trailer, and I would need to haul about 4 loads to go buy a new truck. 3 now, it's getting a little better. But we really had no increase. So if we took adjusted cost of inflation, 3%, you still aren't paying for groceries what you were paying in the 80s.
Yeah.
Food is still cheaper. When I was in college, we got they would tell us we got cost of food down to less than around 10 to 11% of net income of an American citizen. Americans were paying about 10% of your net income to eat. Same time, at that time, Europe was about 15%. We got it all the way down to 8 3/4 with genetically modified crops and bigger equipment and less people. They said, we'll never get it below 10. I got it down to 8 3/4. Got it down to 8 3/4. And at the same time, Europe went to 16. Wow. So it would cost you $2. But at the same time, in the 90s and 2000s, you're spending about 15% lifetime total on health care. So you're spending $2 on health care for every $1 on food. For a long time, my approach has been, I want you to change your budget, spend more on food and less on health care, and which is what most of the rest of the world does. So we have needed an increase in agricultural prices. So the things that affected beef the most, what happened affected beef prices. This country decided, and Congress passed, the Packers and Feeders Act that said no beef packers should have more than 40% control of the beef packing industry. No group of 4 or 5 can have a total control. The top 4 or 5 can never have 50% market share. And that was passed by Congress and Senate and some other rules in place to protect the American consumer in 1885.
Really?
So we've seen this problem already. We addressed
Not
it.
new.
So we had a guy who was president, and he's a peanut farmer, and he was a nice guy, but he was making some terrible policy decisions, especially regarding agriculture. And we had some inflation. Sound familiar? Had some food prices starting to go up. We're having some issues, having some geopolitical issues. We're having some trade issues with that time Russia. His Secretary of Agriculture convinced him we should suspend the Packer and Feeders Act to let these packers be more efficient and will help relieve the stress. So we temporarily...
This is late 70s under Jimmy Carter.
We temporarily, in the late 70s, 79, suspended the Packer and Feeders Act. We've never reinforced it. The top 4, the big 4 packers had 28% combined market share in 1978. By 1983, they had 65% market share. By 1985, they had 85% market share. And today they run around 93% market share amongst 4 packers. A law passed in 1885 that is suspended says that's illegal. That's antitrust violation.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where we live in.
But the Packers and Feeders lobby puts so much money on K Street that it's never going to come back. Unless Doge and Elon and
we seem to be there's a whole new world where things I didn't think could ever happen are starting to happen. So maybe I think if enough people get educated, we can bring things back.
I'm all for eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm just curious if it will make its way around to the rest of the stuff that really costs money, like entitlement programs, healthcare, And
Yeah.
wait for it, ding, 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 military spending.
Yeah, it's whether it's military, law enforcement, firearms, where we love those guys, right? We want them to have the best.
Oh, for sure. But when a
the
toilet
guys
seat
with
costs
boots on the-
$22,000,
But the guys with boots on the ground who never get the benefit, right? It's the
it's the contractors and the manufacturers.
I will inject 30 seconds here. I had I went to church with this guy named Ron, and Ron had retired from the Government Department of Accountability. It's now called Government Office Accountability, GOA, which is actually what Doge is actually operating under. GOA is legit. They have a website. You can look it up.
Yep.
And this guy, I met this guy like 2010, and he had the stories. This guy had so many stories. I called him. I said, "Have you been waiting for this year?" He goes, "I've been waiting for this for 40 years." The just gross misuse of our money is it's insane. So there's some things need to happen. I want people to have the things that we need to provide, but no $22,000 toilet seats. But on the food side, we had that, and we had the massive influence of the big packers. Then they had AMA, agricultural marketing agreements. So what an agricultural marketing agreement is, and this came up and almost got voted down. We got some restrictions on them. So here's what an AMA is. I'm going to forward contract all of your cattle. You and I are going to have a contract. What's the price? I'm going to pay you $2 over cash market. So that's a good deal for you. Whatever the cash market is, the day you bring your cattle to me to harvest in my big plant, I'm going to pay you $2 more than Fred. Hey, Fred's got cash cattle. Hey, Fred, I don't need your cash cattle. I forward contracted 85% of my production. But since you have them, and since by federal law I'm required to buy them for something, I'll give you $1. You're like, but I need $1.35. I know, but I'll give you $1. James, aren't you glad you're getting $1 too? You could have been Fred and only got $1. So you can't control the market and create no cash market and then pay based on the cash market. You can't have an 85 to 90% captive supply and then pay based on a cash market. So
it's the definition of antitrust.
I think that's the definition.
Price manipulation.
Playing both sides of the
right.
field.
And you're like, and you explain this to people, and you're like, wait. And then when I got in the meat business, I'm like, yeah, but I don't understand how they're doing it because I see what this meat wholesales for.
Yeah.
So I have to report these meat prices. And this doesn't make sense for like what they're giving for cattle and what meat's actually being wholesaled for at the prices that I see. So I had a good friend of mine explain it to me. He said, well, call ABC Packing, call Big Four Packer, and tell them you want to buy 20 semi-loads of briskets. And they'll say, okay, hold on. Sorry, I got to transfer you over to ABC Distribution. Okay. So ABC Packing harvests the cattle, puts them in a box, hauls them across the street to the refrigerated warehouse that is ABC Distribution, reports to the federal government the sale of meat from ABC Packing to ABC Distribution. And they're making no money. But you have to buy from ABC Distribution, and that price is not reported. ABC Packing reports that price. Not so, and then you're like, well, who writes all these rules? Well, the USDA. Well, where does the USDA get these guys? Former executives who stepped down from ABC Packing, ABC Chicken, ABC Corn, ABC Ag, and then they go into the end. They write rules that are very much geared towards
There are
large
4
enterprises.
companies. Yeah.
Like what? Well, what's the example of that? There's a rule in USDA food safety guidelines that there's a ceiling. You can only do so many pounds a day if you have a gravel parking lot that you park the semis on. So the semi-trailers that the meat goes on never gets to touch the ground. That's against all the rules. But the semi-trailers have to be on concrete because that keeps a ceiling. You can't. It takes a small guy. He can never afford to go out and put in 3 or 4 acres of concrete to get to the next. So you can't be a medium. You can be a little guy or a massive guy. So we create this like little guys and massive guys with these 2 different sets of rules.
Wow.
So we kind of jumped off.
Folks, for listening right now, do you realize what's happening at this episode? We are getting a master class.
That's right.
On the sourcing of the food that you and I eat. This I had no idea.
We
the
haven't even got to
conversation.
COVID yet.
This is phenomenal. Please continue.
Listen, we talked about China. We talked about the tariffs.
The big four Packers.
We got those. We got the Packers. And then so I think MCA, USMCA. So
which is short for
old NAFTA, U.S., Mexico, Canada. U.S., Mexico, CA, Canada. USMCA. It's the new revised count. So under that, we created some more open things. So if we have pecans grown here in Texas, and we don't want to go to the expense of shelling those in Texas, because in Texas, I'm required to have about 6 or 8 FDA employees in my plant that I have to pay for. I have to provide them a lab. I have to pay all this, right? Well, you heard saying there ain't no God in Mexico. Well, there ain't no FDA in Mexico. So under USMCA, what it is, I'm not going. We're shutting down our pecan shellers, and I did this because pecans are very much Texas thing. So we're shutting down our pecan shellers, and we're taking those pecans and we're shipping them to Mexico, shelling them, putting them in a box, and sending them back. And they're still a Texas pecan. Nowhere are you told they left the United States. Nowhere are you told they weren't under USDA FDA oversight. So we're losing those American jobs.
So chain of custody is broken, and we have no idea what's happening.
I own them. I never sold them to the plant in Mexico. I own them. I sent them to Mexico. I brought them back.
Yeah.
But I don't have to label that. Right.
Wow. And the consumer never knows that.
Consumer never knows. Right.
And that's okay. The law doesn't prohibit that.
Well, in 2016 at 2 a.m. on an omnibus bill, we did away with country of origin labeling for meat. The American consumer doesn't really need to know what country the meat counter is coming from. We did away with that at 2 a.m. on a budget bill, which how do we pull that off, right? So as crazy as things are with food, and the highlight of COVID was people went back to buying local. They got back to doing things, right? But we had some weird stuff happen with food during COVID. So you got crazy pretty quick. So on March 17th, the United States government, in their infinite wisdom, decided to shut down all the restaurants in the United States. No one told them, or no one thought through that 50% of all the food in the United States is consumed at home, and 50% is consumed in a restaurant. So the trucks, the companies, ABC company, EDF company. EDF delivers to restaurants, ABC delivers to grocery stores. EDF has different packaging. It's wholesale packed. 50% of the food supply of America got trapped in a restaurant distribution model. EDF doesn't do business with grocery stores. ABC Co does. So all these restaurant distribution companies just have massive amounts of food.
And there's
forward
spoilage.
Contractor. And so that's why you were like, there was no vegetables at the store. There was there was these shortages. We were selling a 24-foot box truck every day of produce out of the restaurant by reboxing it into instead of selling you a 30-pound case of lettuce, everybody got a head of lettuce. Everybody got, we were doing boxes, and it kept our wait staff employed. It's great. Well, so we kind of got that figured out. So finally, it was about 2 or 3 weeks, and they got that stuff redirected. There was a lot of spoilage, a lot of waste, but anyways, we got things redirected. Well, about the time that got settled down, we started having COVID in the beef plants. Now it's April. We've all been home for 30 days. We're almost caught up on all the honeydew chores around the house. And dang it, we finally got eggs and rice and butter, but now I can't get meat. And meat went through the roof. And something very interesting happened with meat prices. Chuck roast, ribeye roast, they got to be the same price because steaks are consumed in restaurants, chuck roasts are consumed at home. All the restaurants getting closed. It was dealer's choice. You want a chuck roast, you want a rib roast. Same price, wholesale, in April and May of 2020. April and May of 2020, we start hearing about plant closures. ABC Packing Co., Pratt, Kansas, closing. EDF Packing, Colorado, closing. COVID running rampant amongst employees. And so you're like, dude, why, this is the point where you're like, honey, do you know anybody? Is anybody, any of your social media friends, anybody have COVID? No, I don't know anybody, right? There's that time frame where we really is under control, or whatever you want, whatever your opinion of it. Nobody really had COVID, right? March, April. Later on, we saw more cases, but it was there, but it wasn't rampant like it was these beef plants. So does working with red meat make you susceptible to COVID? No. So why they were susceptible to COVID is, in your brain, you're thinking, ABC Packing, Amarillo, Texas, 8,000 head of cattle per day, 2,400 employees. All those guys live there in Amarillo. They get up, they drink coffee, drive the minivan to work. No, they live. They're from all over the world. They're agricultural visa workers, speaking 132 languages. Is the number of languages and dialects that USDA found to be found in these 32 mega beef plants, living in a dormitory style arrangement. So dudes from third world countries living in a dorm, maybe not the most hygienic. They actually make them shower at the plant when they go in. So, but living communally, they living 20 guys living in a double wide trailer dorm. They got COVID, right? And if one guy got COVID, they got COVID because they can go out in the world. I mean, they're not hostages.
Social distancing is not possible when you got 20 guys bunked in a single wide.
I'm saying it's going to spread a little faster.
Yeah,
it's going to spread a little faster. Now it did kind of run through, and they got past it. But
herd immunity set in after a few months.
But when I take a plant that processes 7-8% of the United States beef supply offline for 10 days, that's a problem.
Sure.
And we saw cattle prices plummet. So at the same time, y'all are paying record prices at the grocery store. The people who are out here in the commodity cattle world, they're taking it in the shorts because, hey, we got all the cattle we can kill. That plant's offline. So it was just crazy.
Man, I'm just sitting here processing this, going.
So our prices never changed. So all these people during COVID, they were coming in. We were selling ground beef like crazy because all of a sudden $8-9 a pound for local ground beef is fantastic price. It's $12 at IGA. So we're seeing the same thing with eggs right now.
Okay,
what's going on with the eggs?
Can you set the record straight? I know you're a beef guy. You're a cattle rancher. You're not a poultry farmer. Did they really slaughter 180 million birds?
Yeah, they euthanize those birds. So I want you to think about it like this. And where does the bird flu? How did the birds living in these confined chicken houses?
Was it not some government conspiracy?
Everything.
I'm not saying it was.
But everything's 60 days later. Everything's 60 days away from not being a conspiracy.
Certain part of my family tree eats, sleeps, and breathes. The government is evil and it's conspiring against the everyday taxpayer.
I want to tell you that ignorance and conspiracy are good bed partners. They look a lot alike and they smell a lot alike.
So it was a proactive risk management approach to kill those birds.
The trapping the food supply, half of the food supply, that was a conspiracy. That's just ignorance. But ignorance and conspiracies, they smell a little bit alike and they can be confused.
Yeah.
Make a decision which one it was.
Sure.
On the bird deal, bird flu. It comes from the wild birds. So it's those Canadian geese. That's why we're after Canada. That's what it is. Right. So the wild birds land on the chicken coop. They poop on the chicken house, and bird flu gets into these chickens. So what they'll do, this bird flu, which is unique to avians, they're just killing chickens. So to be safe, so if we had bird flu in Collin County, let's euthanize all the chickens in Collin County. Okay. That's the old protocol. Well, somebody got a little heavy-handed under the previous administration and decided that maybe we should kill all the chickens in Denton, Tarrant, Dallas, Fannin, Grayson counties just to be safe. Well, it's only in Collin County. Now let's just kill everything. Let's go over and above. So Joel Salatin, organic guy, the father of organic farm ranching. He's like, when in these 20,000 bird houses, 15,000 birds die, 5,000 live. How about we don't kill the 5,000 that lived? How about we reproduce the 5,000 that lived and let's breed those birds? Wouldn't that be a novel idea? Oh no, we got to kill those. All right, so that's kind of the maddening effect of killing these birds. Now, a chicken from egg to fried chicken is 6 to 7 weeks. A layer from egg to egg is 6 or 8 months. a cow from bull meets cow, 36 months to steak, from conception to steak.
So you're basically just a bovine pimp.
Yeah, I'm more thinking
we
like a
say pimp on the
matchmaker.
podcast?
I'm more like a
Family-friendly?
matchmaker. You know, hey, Mr. Bull, meet these lovely ladies.
Okay.
Okay.
The
Go ahead.
We ran them through a computer software to make sure they were compatible.
Match.com for cows.
bullmeetup.com.
Yeah.
No.
Only cows.
Yeah. Holy cows. That's
That's going to be my next beef company.
For the
There you
moms currently listening in your minivans, I apologize, and I would like to point out it was Fred that said that, not
No.
James.
Yeah, but James brought up the whole bullpip thing, so I'm just saying.
No,
You started. I just followed the foul.
Dude, I do commercial insurance and risk management all day long. I think in terms of supply chain, exposure analysis, threat mitigation. Like this whole conversation, all my wheels are turning, man, is thinking in terms of just for you and your operation to have a vertically integrated organization.
So right now, we've always been $7 a dozen on local pasture raised, non-GMO fed hens eggs, and now that grocery store eggs are $10 a dozen, we are $7 a dozen, and so people love us, just like they loved us during COVID when we were cheaper. We didn't go up, but we didn't go down, and so if you're listening, please buy as much local food as you can because we won't hose you over when the times get tough. We stick with you. We cost more when things are artificially low. But we cost less when things go bonkers and go high.
Yeah.
And long term, we're cheaper. Move that healthcare budget over to us.
So
Well, I just want to say that during
Love
the
that,
whole
by the way.
during the
Love
whole
that.
COVID season, I wasn't trying to find steak. I was trying to find toilet paper. You should have gotten into TP.
So
you
same
did.
deal. we because the way toilet
Local-
paper comes to
local
restaurants
Yocal.
is like 48 rolls in this big box. It's made for it. We completely, if there was about a 10-day period there where we could get all the toilet paper we wanted, and we were helping everybody get toilet paper. Pretty soon, everyone figured out that the restaurants could get toilet paper, and they sucked up that supply too. But yeah,
I want to talk about the beef itself because the difference between the Costco beef and then Market Street is better than Costco. But then you go to an actual butcher, like the perception is it tastes better. It's, the texture or whatever. I'm not a huge fan of Costco beef. I used to be, and then I started realizing other stuff. And then you go to local Yocal and other local, it was Ham's Meat Market in Plano. I don't know where they source their beef, but
Ham's here, McKinney. I'm in the old Ham's building, so ye old butcher. So I'll tell you this, not to cast shade on anyone else in the meat business.
Sure.
I feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
So I feel sorry. So you said I'm matching cows. We are literally matching genetics. So what are the 3 rules of real estate? Location, location, location.
Yeah.
3 rules of ranching for consistent steaks: genetics, genetics, genetics. It takes me 3 years to produce you a great steak. And you can screw it up anywhere along the way. But you can't produce a bad steak and fix it with your Mike's Magic Sauce.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't fix it.
Well, and the question,
controlling the genetics, controlling every aspect, animal welfare. Like people want to come after me after animal welfare. You know that when it snowed and you stayed home all day, we are out in that. There are no days off. We work harder when the weather's worse. So yeah, we're out there we give these animals the best life they can have until the very end.
Yeah.
And
until we kill and eat them.
Even then, the very end is we're fanatic about how calm and humane that is.
Yeah.
Because it's best for them and it's best for meat quality.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, people think we're out here beating these things with sticks. I saw a guy get mad and hit his car with a baseball bat one time. I'm going to say that not all Americans do that. Out of 330 million Americans, it's a low percentage that go out and attack their cars with a baseball bat. So it is absolutely essential. So when you look at the diversity of the people, all the different breeds, and you got Brahman cattle. So Angus produced pretty good meat. That's been watered down a little bit with some marketing programs. Won't attack those guys too much. They're saying, genetics, care. So if we were just to go to a livestock sale barn and see 1,500 head of cattle go there in a day, you're going to see some of the best animals you could buy, 5-10%. You're going to see 20-30% be meh. You're going to see 30 to 50% be absolutely horrible, crap meat coming out of a plant.
And what makes the difference from one to another? Because the question I'm really
genetics
getting to,
and how they were cared for up until that point.
Okay.
Genetics.
What makes one steak better than the other, in simple terms?
Fine muscle fiber. Muscle fiber. 1,500 thread count sheets, not 250 thread count sheets.
Yeah.
The finer the muscle fiber, the more tender the steak. So how the animal was, the genetics to give it the potential to be that, and then we don't use the drugs. So then if you take already, you have the potential, you could be 500 thread count, you'll never be 1,000 or 1,500, you could be 500, and then I use drugs, I take you to 250 thread count. The drugs make things grow faster. Anything that grows faster is coarser muscle fiber.
Yeah.
The coarser the muscle fiber, the less tender the steak. Wagyu, the Japanese breed, they grow really slow. Have to be 30 plus months old to harvest. 1,500 thread count. Angus, the Murray Grey breed, I call them the 1,000 thread count of beef. Grow slow, fine muscle fiber, tender. The longer the animal lives, the more flavor, the more life they pack into that. So when we do things to manipulate the growth of the animal with drugs, we shorten the life, we simplify the diet. So if I feed you a diet of 150 plants, you're more diverse than if I feed you a diet of 50 plants. And if I reduce that down to 4 food items, you're pretty water. I'm not even going to call you vanilla. You're water.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's what we've dumbed down the American palate. We produce really sorry, tough meat, and then we do things to chemically tenderize it or mechanically tenderize or whatever. So ABC butcher, if I was just go buy meat off the trucks at a butcher shop, not know where it's coming from, not be a very specific program, not raising myself, you're literally rolling the dice. So those 8,000 head of cattle they're harvesting today in Amarillo, Texas, and today's Friday, it's 8,000 head day. One plant, 8,000 head of cattle, one animal every 9 seconds. Are you getting the 5%, the 20%, or the 50 to 60%?
Gotcha.
Well, I can promise you, you're not getting the 5%.
Yeah.
They're going to restaurants. They're going to places that pay more and demand more. So first off, the really good stuff goes to restaurants. It's interesting you brought up the cost of co. They actually do go out there in the marketplace and buy some really premium meat and sell it below cost.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate them.
Huh. You know,
They
is it
lose
just
money.
perception that it's...
They also
it's-
have some really cheap stuff. So you got to go in there and wade through it and know what you're getting.
And does the grades mean anything? Prime, choice, and whatnot?
They do. So that is based on the amount of marbling at the 12th rib of the ribeye. They grade all the animals for fat content, fat distribution. So if a ribeye is 33% fat, it's prime, 25% is choice, 17% is select. So, but that's at the ribeye, 12th rib of the ribeye.
Sure.
Oh, that does mean something. Then they split that up into top third, middle third, bottom third, that of prime and choice. So now you have programs that are top 2/3 of choice, top third of prime, top third of choice, different programs. So all that top stuff is definitely going out to, right? So the place you buy your water from, they have prime beef. It's the bottom third.
It's the bottom prime.
It's the bottom third.
Yeah.
That's why it's cheaper than the place down the street that has prime beef.
Okay.
But it's also, I think the other thing consumers will find interesting is they're paying probably, even at the retail price point at a grocery store,
Yeah.
they're probably paying 10 to 20% less for steaks.
Well,
than a
I
restaurant
find
does.
it's very interesting. And now, granted, it's been a few months since I bought a pack of steaks at Costco. Last time I did, prime filet was $22, $23 a pound at Costco. Prime filet at Market Street, right like a mile from where we're sitting right now. That same prime you think it's the same because it's USDA prime and the marbling looks real similar. That same prime filet is $45 a pound at Market Street, but it tastes very different than the steak from Costco.
So The HEBs here in town. I don't know them very well, but I have mutual friends that are real good friends with meat buyers. HEB prides themselves on running a pretty good meat program.
Okay.
They do for a big grocery store. They do the best they can. I think Market Street, up until they got bought out a few years ago, same way. I don't know much about them now. I can't speak one way or the other. So over at the Costa Co., somebody somewhere made a deal with somebody somewhere else to buy a heck of a lot of product. So I know of a Wagyu program that sold meat to Costco below cost of production. Below cost of production.
How do they make any money off of that?
We're getting our name out there. And then Costco sold it below that cost. So the same steak that I would have to sell for like $45 a pound, they sold for $22 a pound.
Yeah.
And you're like, but everybody lost money on it. But they're buying market share. Now, but it's not there this week. It was there for a period of time.
Yeah.
And so they do that. So what they want you to do is they want you to believe, by looking at how cheap those amazing steaks are, that everything in here is cheap, right? But they're a members club.
Yeah.
The vast
and
majority of their
when you
profit
walk in
comes
the
from
door and
membership
buy
fee.
that steak, you're buying 12 other things too.
Right.
It's just a lost leader.
So-
It's their advertising
So here's your
budget.
grocery store cheat code.
There
You want to. So one, grocery stores in the DFW Metroplex, less than 1% profit, 3/4 of 1% net profit. Spend $100 in a grocery store, they net 75 cents. That's the real reason why the Butts family took so long to get to this market. This is a tough market to be in. So now, when you're in the grocery store, how could you make sure the grocery store absolutely loses money on you? They don't make anything on you. Only buy things that touch the wall. What touches the wall? Produce, meats, dairy.
So nothing off the shelf.
Right? That's where the money's at. 50 to 60% of the gross profit of a grocery store, you can see it from one place if you'll do a 360-degree spin, the checkout aisle.
Like the candy bars, the chips.
Candy bars,
things.
magazines, cold drinks, end caps, last-minute impulse items. They make up the vast majority of the gross profit of a grocery store. You know how many chains, and even milk, they don't make money on milk, but you go to the grocery store to get milk. Do you know how many grocery stores have been like, we're the ones. We're going to put milk at the front. We're going to be the people that people come to. They do it for like 6 months. They move it to the back. Because you spend, pre-COVID, I need to see what this number is now. Pre-COVID, you spend $7 a minute in a grocery store. So if I can make you go to the back to get milk, that's $7. You're $7 a minute. They engineer the ball bearings in the grocery carts. They could make those things like, IKEA's grocery carts push a little easier than grocery stores. That's not because IKEA's got good grocery carts. They want you to stay in the grocery store. They've engineered the resistance of the ball bearings.
So you mean they mean for that wheel to go to clack, 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 clack.
That's bonus. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
The music, the tempo of the music is soothing to slow you. Everything in a grocery store
That's so
is
funny.
engineered to slow you down. $7 a minute. It's probably $12 a minute now.
Hey,
Wow.
the next
It's-
time I
it's-
go to the
there's
grocery
no
store,
accidents.
Elizabeth, I'm gonna time it and look at our receipt just to see.
You're probably right now spending $12 to $14.
Where are you at on time? We're at a little bit past 3 o'clock.
We're at our moment here.
I
you
mean,
got
the
stuff
bar
to do
doesn't
this
open until
afternoon.
like 5.
Okay. I just want to respect your time because I don't know what you got going on today. So, yeah.
He's got to check his check.
Nothing's on fire.
Okay, cool.
Nothing's on fire.
And scene. That is where we are stopping episode 1 of this 2-part episode. Great conversation you just got to hear the first part of with Matt Hamilton. Come back and check out the rest of the conversation next week. The YouTube version will be dropping on Friday, just like they always do, and the podcast version of part 2 will be dropping next Monday on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for watching and listening. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Take care.